Where on the world you are, we greet you and we say thanks for joining us today for this very special occasion for Jamaica, CARICOM, and the world. I invite you now to pray with me through the national anthem of Jamaica, which is a prayer for our country. Pause for the national anthem of Jamaica. Amen. The national anthem of Jamaica is a prayer for our country. And as part of our national pledge, we seek that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. And that's what we're about today. My name is Richard Lawrence. I'm manager for the Testing and Industrial Services branch here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. And I am happy to be your master of ceremonies today as we launch the Good Agricultural Practices Standard. To be the best, consistently, you need to have good practices that are repeatable. And a standard creates that platform that you can be the best, not only today, but tomorrow, next week, and next year. For Jamaica to be the best and to advance the welfare of the whole human race, we have to standardize how we do things. Many persons would have looked on Jamaica as a wonderful place to come for samples. You can make a good sample of food, fruit, a bench, but can you make it good tomorrow, next week, next year? Can you mass produce it? The Bureau of Standards Jamaica, under our tagline, Making Standards Work for You, is empowering the industry, including the agricultural sector, to be consistent in the highest level of our standards. Today, we launch this Good Agricultural Practice Standard to create the resources that the players in the industry can access markets locally, overseas, and for there to be a level playing field. We are going to have some excellent presentations today. We're looking at the standard. We're going to be looking at the Quality Awards program and how we move forward in creating an environment of quality, cultivating excellence, growing quality for a sustainable tomorrow is the theme of our morning. And to kick us off this morning, I'm going to invite the Executive Director of the Bureau of Standards, a man who has been with the Bureau for several years. He went into the private sector. He is excellent. He brought back his excellent quality experience from the private industry to chart a path now for the Bureau of Standards to move forward in a transformationary code. The Executive Director of the Bureau of Standards, Dr. Velton Gooden brings welcome.
Good morning, Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Richard Lawrence, other colleagues from the Bureau of Standards, members of the technical committee, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's really a pleasure for me this morning to bring greetings and to welcome you to the launch of the new standard, the JCP 9 2024 Jamaica Standard Specification for Good Agricultural Practices. Globally, food security is a growing imperative. The truth is that providing clean, safe food in adequate quantity for your citizens is a basic requirement for any nation. However, what we have seen globally is that there are a number of events that challenge global food supply. So, for example, in recent years, we would have had a number of wars developing in certain areas of the world. The war between Russia and Ukraine is one such example, a major supplier of basic food or commodity items such as grains, flour, and basic agricultural input. Also, we have seen a war in the Middle East involving Israel, which is a nation known for its agricultural exploits as well as agriculture research. Then we also have events occasioned by climate change. These events have resulted in disruption of food supplies, resulting in from floods, droughts in certain areas, and even impacting shipping logistics. Recently, we had reports coming out of Panama, where because of inadequate levels of water supply in the canals, it has slowed the shipping lanes, resulting in disruption of food supplies. Notwithstanding, there are a number of globally accepted food safety management systems. For example, Global GAP, there is ISO 22000, there is SQF, just to mention a few. And these, when implemented, and farmers or persons involved in primary production are certified to these standards, it allows for an assurance of clean, safe food produced in a very efficient way. However, for many of our micro, small, and medium farmers, there is a difficulty in being able to afford being certified to these types of global standards, let alone being able to afford the cost of maintaining these standards. And therefore, it is timely, I would say, and appropriate for Jamaica to look to develop a national standard that provides an alternate to these more recognized international standards, but can also be used as a stepping stone towards achieving these global standards. And the JCP 90 2024 represent our national standard to serve just that purpose. So I'd like to use the opportunity, first of all, to commend and to thank the technical committee that worked hard, along with the other stakeholders, for being able to produce such a timely standard at this time. Also, I would like to invite all the participants that are present on the platform this morning on the occasion of the launch to stay with us if you can through the entire program and benefit from the presentations that will follow. And in general, we encourage you to partner with us as we move now to implement these timely national standards that will go far away in ensuring food security and ensuring that we can, in a very efficient and adequately safe way, produce food for the consuming public and for export. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gooden. Giving us the context of why we're here today. We are going to dive into the presentations looking at the new standard, the JCP 9 2024 Standard Code of Practice for Good Agricultural Practices. And in terms of housekeeping, during the course of the presentations, you can use up the chat. We don't want to have a lecture type interaction today. We're working together. We are employing best practices, and we are transforming the landscape of our country. Use the chat, post your questions, your comments. There's a team here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica who will be supporting me in answering the questions, drawing them to my attention and to the attention of the presenters. At the end of each presentation, you can raise your hand, we'll identify you, and you can ask your question. I know some persons might not be able to come on mic, so we'll also respond to questions in the chat. So if you heard and understand what I'm saying just now, could you just put a 7 in the chat? Let me do a test right now. See how many persons hearing. Let's put 7 in the chat. Type 7 in the chat if you understand. Oh, okay, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Great. So our first presenter today is Miss Giselle Brown. Giselle is a Standards Development Officer right here at the BSJ and has been with the Bureau for over 2 years, working in the field of standards development. She is the facilitator for the National Food Standards, Labeling and Good Agricultural Practices Technical Committees. She also assumes a role, this is a very important role, listen very carefully. There might be a prize later on based on what you hear. She also assumes the role of the Member Body User Administrator for Jamaica, for the International Organization for Standardization. In short, we call it ISO. A graduate of the University of the West Indies, but we won't hold that against her. No, I'm just joking. Giselle has a BSc in biotechnology with minor in management studies with honors. She's passionate about the field of food safety and quality management, and she has an aim to promote and cultivate the importance of standards and quality in Jamaica. It's my pleasure to invite to present to us right now on the standard, the JCP 9 2024, Miss Giselle Brown.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Mr. Lawrence. All right, so good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today, where we will be basically diving into the Good Agricultural Practices Standard. As a result of this, I am going to stop sharing my video and go ahead and share my screen so you can see the lovely presentation. And I'm just doing a check to make sure everyone can see the presentation and it's in full screen. Okay. All right, so as I said, today we will be diving into the standards for agriculture, and in particular, the Jamaican Standard Code of Practice for Good Agricultural Practices. So we're just a little overview. We will go into the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, the standards development process that led to the development of this important standard, a little bit about the committee that played an important role in making this standard happen, important highlights of what this standard covers or stresses upon, and also additional services to support the agricultural industry. Right. So the Bureau of Standards Jamaica is a customer-focused organization that promotes the international competitiveness of producers. We also facilitate business development and trade, and we support consumer protection through the services we provide, which is namely but not limited to standardization, metrology, testing, certification, and training. So just to go into a bit of the standards development process, maybe the first thing, we of course identify the need. In this case, the need was identified that we noticed that farmers, or it was brought to our attention that, hey, farmers need a standard that basically outlines the best practices for the local or the global production of your horticultural products, agricultural produce on a whole, because we recognize that they might have an issue to really meet the stringent standards or the stringent requirements that is asked upon them, especially when it comes on to export. So as this, of course, as customer, we want to harmonize our standards with international best practices to increase our market share of all our stakeholders and all our players in this process. As from there, of course, the technical committee, which in this case is the Good Agricultural Practices Technical Committee, was established through that need. From there, the committee would have met over the time period to work on the draft, make changes, get our resources together, have numerous discussions on how we think the standard should be structured, and more importantly, how we can reach the intended user, which is the farmers in this using this standard, to just make it very user-friendly, very to the point, but also ensuring that we get all of the necessary requirements. After that, or after the committee feels that we have a good working draft and that we are adequately informing the users, we then issued it for public comments or non-objection, and that period lasts for 60 days. After which we would have received comments or concerns, and then the committee would come back to then ratify, ensure that we are meeting the needs of everyone concerned. And then after that, it will go to the Standards Council for approval, and then after which ministerial approval. And then after all of that is then gazetted and published, which is where we are now. So just a little bit more into the Good Agricultural Practices Technical Committee. And for those from the committee who are here, you can shoot a quick wave. We were established that committee was established in April of 2022. This is the first standard published by this technical committee, hopefully not the last, but definitely it is the first of many. Represented from a wide cross-section of stakeholders from governments, mainly government, industry, and academia. Then this is just a little representation of all of the main persons who were on this committee. I want to take this time out to also thank them for the work and the time they have put into it. So here we're going to now go into the highlights of the JCP 9 2024. Of course, this is not going to give you everything that is in the standard, but just a few key details that we just need to highlight that we think is important going forward, and that will help the farmers and all of the other users of the standard to meet international best practices in the agricultural industry. So to start out with the scope, this standard sets out a framework for good agricultural practice on farms. Here it defines the essential elements for the development of best practices for the global production of crops, fruits, vegetables. It basically defines the minimum standard acceptable, but it is not granular to the point where we're going to outline every method of agricultural production. So the key features of this standard, or the key areas, we have clauses on site management, record keeping, and internal self-assessment. And I wanted to make a note of the record keeping as well, because throughout most of this standard, you will see where it stresses the importance of keeping records and documentation, which is what we noticed that a lot of farmers, particularly more smaller farmers, may not be aware of the importance of it, or they're not practicing it to the extent that we should. And that is something that's very important. So we have hygiene and workers' welfare. So their hygiene and just general upkeep and safety on farms, soil management and conservation. So just ensuring that the soil that you're using is of good quality, whether you have to do your risk assessments, integrated pest management, and pre and post-harvest activities. It also speaks to the application and use of fertilizers as well in this standard. All right, so just a few information on what the site management section includes. So it speaks to using land for crop production and how it should be selected. So it should be selected based on the history of that land, if it was used for something else, the capability and or suitability. So it stresses on doing assessments just to ensure that the land that he's using is sustainable. Also to ensure that it's being tested for contaminants if it's a case where this is a new piece of land, you've never used it or farmed it before. So we just want to make sure that there's no traces of contaminants or anything that will provide deleterious effects to the final product, which is the agricultural produce. Land for crop production shall also contain. It also suggests using a farm map as well as a physical description or instruction at each field. So what that means is ensuring that the areas are have dual signs. They are, if it's a yard over here, it's going to be labeled yard. If it's a greenhouse, all of those signs are adequately showing. The farm map, which maybe all persons might not be able to have something like that, but for something to basically outline how the farm is constructed, the directions for each area, so that you have a system of a clear system that you can see in a process flow. All right, so this section, record keeping and internal self-assessment, as I said, this is not only stressed in this section, but most of the sections in regards to good agricultural practices, because not only is it important to farm and grow what we eat, but it's also to make sure you have records of same. So of course, the farmers, and suppliers, of course, would all be duly registered by the competent authorities. You have lot numbers that need to be duly recorded and maintained for all produce that's going to leave the farm. And also stresses the importance of traceability, because in the event something happens, goods are spoiled, maybe there is something going on with one of the batches, you can easily trace that back to the farm and say, okay, this is where it came from, so that you can easily pinpoint where the issue arose. So it's just basically stressing the importance of traceability and record keeping in terms of that. So for hygiene and workers' welfare, it's again stressing the importance of keeping good records. So it implies that you should have a documented hygiene procedure based on risk analysis, because at the end of the day, you want to prevent accidents from happening. You don't want to get into any issues where persons have fallen sick on the compound and they're transferring those contaminants to the food or the produce or whatever is being produced on that farm or land space. So soil management and conservation, which is very important, of course. The soil maps, so it speaks to the use of soil maps, which would be prepared prior to planting. So this is basically identifying the type of soil for each site based on a soil analysis or a cartographic style map. And of course, encouraging the use of conservation methods such as contouring, cover cropping, crop rotation, mulching, because these are practices, whether high-tech or in a lower grade level, it is widely used to ensure that the soil is maintained, the soil is healthy and can produce more crops for futures and generations to come. And of course, it speaks to having due records for and evidence of sowing and planting on these farms. So integrated pest management, which is very important, is because especially in our climate, our crops are susceptible to damage from either pests or climate change. So there's a lot of factors that our farmers and operators are up against when it comes to just general conditions. But in pest management, we'll speak to more pesticide application and ensuring that it is controlled, it is labeled, it is a substance that is approved by the competent authority and in accordance with local regulations. So this standard also speaks to your activities from the pre-harvest, harvest, and also post-harvest activities. So some of your pre-harvest activities would include having standard operating procedures for processes performed. Again, having adequate records to demonstrate that the intervals between the use of composted organic fertilizers do not compromise food safety. And also speaks to in instances where decomposed animal manure is used, a risk assessment should be duly conducted in order to ensure that this is safe to be used into the soil. Harvest activities would include ensuring that your water is duly treated. You're using clean potable water, and it should not be the water that you would use for maybe washing down windows or equipment that should not be used for food handling use, like to wash, for instance, to wash fruits and crops. So the water that's used should be definitely separated and labeled for different uses. As well as it also speaks to your harvested produce, where it should be stored in such a way to avoid contamination by pests and any outside contaminants, whether physical or chemical hazards. So this is going into your post-harvest activities. This just includes using treatments in according to label instructions, as well as ensuring that there are also, like the pesticides, any treatments that are used on post-harvest, they should be approved for use on a harvested crop locally, as well as applied by a competent worker who is able to handle and apply the treatment as well as store it. So just want to get into a few issues that we have seen over time that farmers face when they're exporting goods or when they're trying to export goods to other countries. They face the risk of goods being dumped. This stems from exporters, probably exporters that they work with discarding the goods as a result of spoilage. And of course, this may result in non-payment for their produce, which is an issue. a lack of policy protection, where farmers experience inadequate policy support and avenues for redress in the export process. As a result of this, it can leave them vulnerable to exploitation and unfair treatment in the industry. So maybe they're not being paid as adequately as they should in the process. There's no system in place to basically help them, protect them from where those issues arise. There's also stringent crop specifications. So sometimes they may have an issue with meeting the requirements, especially as it regards to export, because with export, there may be more stringent, it might be a bit more stringent as opposed to when they're producing for local consumption. And also, which poses barriers to entry into export markets, which this standard we should allow because it will now be aligning the best practices. It will help them or give them a guide as to the steps they can take to make themselves more market accessible. There's also pricing discrepancies that they face, which includes unfavorable payment terms. Possibly the exporters would like to extend like a line of credit rather than just having a one-time payment, which can lead to financial strain for farmers, especially those who operate and own small farms, or it's just a sole farmer. So while the standard may not be able to address all of the issues that the farmers face, what we do aim is that the use of this standard will help to drive the reference of the standard in policies and initiatives. Through this, it will give the standard more of a spine. The policies will be supported by the standards that say, okay, this is the requirements and this is what you would need to ensure that you're basically operating a system that is of quality, you're following all of the requirements that you would need to enter not only the local markets, but for exports. Training as well. You can reference this standard in training programs and related curriculums for agriculture, food processing, or otherwise. For laws, as well as it ties back into policies and initiatives where referencing this standard in laws will just give it greater strength and help to strengthen and maintain that importance of the requirements. It will also add a level playing field for all farmers in this process, as there will be one set standard, for lack of a better word, across the board as to how they can maintain their farms. So other services that we provide that can support the agricultural industry, we have our packaging and microbiology labs. This is mainly for more in the agro-processing industry. However, we do have our laboratory testing services. We have training services. This standard speaks a lot about risk assessment and ensuring that you have good practices and record keeping, and some of the courses that this Quality Institute does offer could help to bridge that gap as well, where farmers may have issues in terms of documentation. And certification through the NCBJ, which Mrs. Ford will get into in the next presentation, so I won't go into detail on that, where they offer CAP certification and Global Gap certification. And you may contact us. You can access public standards at TIC at bsj.org.jm. Standards developments, any information on standards under development. My email is below. And for your general inquiries, you have info@bsj.org.jm. Right. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this presentation. I hope you all learned a lot, and I hope that you will be running to the BSJ to collect your copy of the JCP 9 2024.
Thank you, Giselle. Could you put some sevens in the chats as we say thanks to Ms. Brown for that presentation? As you can appreciate, and she said, there is a whole lot more that we can speak to the standard. The standard is pretty comprehensive, in covering the different eras, pre-harvest, harvest, post-harvest. And there is an emphasis that Giselle placed, and I want to see if anyone can win a prize this morning. One big emphasis Ms. Brown placed in the standard was on there's something that a lot of our farmers don't do. What is it that Giselle was emphasizing? Put it in the chat or raise your hand. Let me see who gonna. Oh my God. Andreen, are you on the committee? If you're on the committee, you cannot win a no. Andreen was the first person on the block. Are you on the committee? Record keeping is correct. Good. All right. All right, Andreen, we need to get your details because you
Lawrence?
are absolutely correct. Yes.
I'm sorry, but was it Andreen first or was it Kadeen first?
On my computer, on my computer, I have Andreen at the oh no,
It's
no,
Kadeen first, Richard.
no. That is so true. The Stewart's inquiry has revealed that there was a photo finish. Kadeen actually pipped by, was it 5/10 of a second?
Yes.
Kadeen, congratulations. Awesome. Sorry about Andrew, but we're all winners. Record keeping indeed, because our farmers are very good at what they do. But if you're going to go into the international market, record keeping is key. So the standard itself is voluntary, but it gives us access to the international marketplace. A part of the process of empowering our people and industry is sharing information, hence the launch of the standard today in this virtual forum. We're also educating the next set of persons who are coming into agriculture. And at this time, I want to welcome to the forum Dr. Derek Deslandes, who is the president of the College of Agriculture, Science, and Education CASE in Portland, who is going to give an endorsement of this standard in the process of training the next set of farmers. Is Dr. Deslandes on the platform? Are you there? No, I'm not seeing Dr. Deslandes. Okay, when we get Dr. Deslandes, we'll continue with that remarks. But at this time, we are open to questions. I saw a question about the presentation. Yes, you can get a copy of the presentation. Team, who should the email come to requesting the presentation? Should it go to info?
No, you can send them.
Oh, okay. Email gbrown@bsj.org.jm. Could somebody put in the chat, please? If you want a copy of the presentation from today, email gbrown@bsj.org.jm. The standard is available for just $3,616.21. That is a very small contribution to your own development. Questions. We have a few minutes now. We can take questions on the first presentation. You can either raise your hand or type it in the chat. Pamela, you're not seeing it on the website shop? No problem. Just send an email to gbrown@bsj.org.jm with your contact detail, and we'll resolve that for you. Hand is up. Jean Thomas, go ahead. Go ahead, Jean. Oh, the hand went down.
Sorry, I'd like to have the presentation.
Okay, sure. Let's send the email to gbrown@bsj.org.jm.
Would you like to write the email address?
It's in
Would
the
you-
chat.
Would you like to write the email address on the? Okay, thank you.
Thanks. As the BSJ supports the industry, the agricultural industry, through several services. We offer standards development. We do training through our Quality Institute, both on-site and specialized training. We have special projects, including hot pepper value chain in collaboration with the FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And we also have a certification through our national certification body. So coming to speak to us about the certification of agricultural produce and global gap certification is Ms. Navinia Wellington Ford, who is the manager of the National Certification Body of Jamaica, the NCBJ, not the bank, but the National Certification Body of Jamaica. Navinia is a quality practitioner with extensive experience in training, inspection, auditing of quality management, and food safety system. She heads the National Certification Body of Jamaica, and she's passionate about food safety and quality. Navinia is my friend, so this is not just a bio I'm reading because it's in front of me, but Navinia is really passionate about what she does, and she works assiduously in promotion of a culture of standards and quality in Jamaica. I have the pleasure of inviting you to hear a presentation from Navinia Wellington Ford at this time.
Good morning, Master of Ceremony, colleagues on the call. Thank you very much for the opportunity for us to have this discussion. I will go ahead and start sharing my screen. I ask that you confirm that are you seeing the screen?
It's coming up. Yes, we're seeing now.
Yes.
You can put it in
Okay,
presentation mode.
Perfect. Let me put it in presentation mode. You could confirm that you're seeing it in presentation mode.
Good to go?
Yes, confirmed.
Okay, thank you so much. So in terms of, let me turn on my camera just to manage the bandwidth if there are any issue. So let me go ahead and turn off my camera. So we will be talking today about certification. Thank you very much, Ms. Brown, for that presentation, introduction of the standard. It's a standard that is very dear to our hearts here at the National Certification Body of Jamaica because of what is it that we do. We do certification, and at the base of it, of every certification is a standard. So we have an integrated approach then when it comes on to standard and standard development. So we are talking today about access granted and the key to unlocking global food markets. And we are positioning ourselves to you today about how is it that we support the agricultural industry or the agro-processing industry. And this first slide really encompasses what is it that we are doing and what we're seeing. Because when you look at the agricultural industry or certification and the standard, you are looking at every arm of the food chain. Right, and I love to see that our farmers are one of the most important part because they will start at the beginning right there of the food chain. Now, when we are looking at the certification body of Jamaica, moment, please. I am clicking next, but I'm not going. Okay, my slide is now transitioning. The certification body, we are an integral role of the quality infrastructure. And in quality infrastructure basically means that the framework or the network that supports the business of your country, whether you're looking at testing, inspection, certification, and accreditation, the certification body is right there. We support our businesses, especially the MSME sector, in helping them to streamline their processes so that they can access market and they can strengthen their business. And our farmers, by and large, the bulk of farmers are classified as MSMEs. We are accredited, meaning that we have international recognition. So you find that each of the certificate that we issue from the NCBJ will be accepted worldwide. So our name, as you will see on the slide, is the National Certification Body of Jamaica, but it's a long name. So, you know, in speaking in conversation terms, we tend to use NCBJ. Our mission is to provide affordable certification services here in Jamaica and across the wider Caribbean. And we have a slogan that we always use where we say, certify locally so that you can compete globally. The product and services that we offer here at the certification body, we have a wide range, because we recognize that our clientele here in Jamaica and across the region, they need more than just one. And therefore, we do have our flagship program, which is the ISO 9001. We have been around for 15 years and we have been maintaining the international recognition for this standard. We also have Food Safety Management System, which is the ISO 22000, one of our food safety programs that we offer. In terms of product certification, because those are management system certification, we are looking at Global GAP, which is what we are speaking to you about today. Global GAP certification, certification of agricultural produce program, which is a program that would use the standard that Ms. Brown just introduced to you. Of course, we also have organic certification, another program that we offer to our farmers. And we have HACCP certification, which is a food safety system that is offered to agro-processors. By and large, we offer 3 international programs and 4 local programs. And again, at the root of everything is a standard. So why is it that the Bureau of Standards saw it fit to invite us to come to share with you today? Because we're talking about food safety. The Good Agricultural Practices Standard is a food safety standard. It leads into the realm of food safety. Farmers must be considering food safety, because on your farm, you must be considering what are the risks, what are the possible risks, particularly if it is that you are in the business of producing goods that don't have to be cooked. Or in the language of the industry, we say that it doesn't have a kill step, meaning that heat is not being applied. So somebody can take a tomato, wash it off, and just bite in it, right? Somebody can take a cucumber and do the same thing. And a lot of times nowadays, you have persons going on a raw food diet. So they must have confidence in these goods that you have produced, so that when they consume it, there's no health risk, there's no food safety incidents that will happen. And that is why we're talking about food safety management principle. What are the hazards? What are the food safety risks that can happen because of the presence of hazards, right, at the time of consumption? Me as a consumer ingesting this product. And when we're talking about hazards, we have to look at a cross section. So you're looking at your chemical hazards, your physical hazards, your biological hazards, including your microbiological hazard. And nowadays, we also have to be considering your hazards that come from allergen, right? Because how many of you on this call might have been eating seafood or eating dairy-based foods all your life, and all of a sudden you find that you start to have an issue with them. Hazards are allergens are becoming a huge deal, big deal right now when we are looking at our food safety and our hazards. So we have to bear that in mind. Food safety hazard can occur at any stage of the food chain. On your farm, as you're transporting your goods, so you must be able to consider it. Adequate control must be exerted to reduce the risk of these hazards that can occur. And therefore, food safety is to ensure that through a combined effort, all parties along the food chain manages food safety risk. And that is one of the reasons why we have been invited to speak with you. Now, sometimes when we speak to persons, food business operators, and I'm going to classify farmers here now. And I'm classifying farmers as business operators. A lot of times when we speak to them about standards and certification, one of the pushback we get, well, I don't intend to export, so I don't need to use a standard, or I don't need certification. And we have to stop them at that point, because you know that Jamaican saying, "Parson christen the pitney first." Why not take care of the food safety risk in your country before you even consider food safety risk that to the goods that you're exporting? So what we're saying is that you must be using the standard on your farm here, even if it is that you're not exporting. You don't want to get into more supermarkets. You don't want to get into more markets. You don't want more buyers to come to you. So you're protecting your interests, and you're looking to enhance your market shares. So we encourage you to use standard and get certified. So is it relevant in the Caribbean context? I'd like to address this question by using questions. I know in school you hear, don't answer a question with a question, but it's a valid way for us to address it. Consider, what are the major countries that we market to, Caribbean food products go to? There are a number of them, right? We can list them out: US, Canada. We have our CARICOM markets also. Here's another question. What are some of the market requirements that these countries are asking our food products to meet? Do you know them? I can say to you right now that these markets are asking us to meet standards requirement. And these markets are also going another step by asking you, are you certified? And if you're certified, may I see the evidence of that? So if you were able to answer any of those questions, it means that food safety management principle and certification is very necessary in our Caribbean context. So how is it that the certification body supports the agriculture industry and by extension, agro-processors? We do this by one of our products, Global Gap certification. It's an international standard, and Global Gap certification is talking about safeguard of a food safety requirement, cost-efficient way to ensure food safety, designed by top experts in the industry. And it is an integrated program that looks at the safety and the integrity of your farm. It's a farm assurer program that looks at the risk and how do you manage risk on your farm. So that is what Global Gap certification is about. When you are looking at this standard and this certification, a lot of the markets, EU and UK, they're asking, are you Global Gap certified? If you want to come to my market, you need to be Global Gap certified. And it's one of the reasons why the certification body responded to the request of the market. You are looking about food safety, sustainability, and good agricultural practices when our farmers are using responsible farming practices. Also, the Ministry of Agriculture Agriculture and Fishery and Mining had made a decision some years ago that our local Jamaican farmers must be Global Gap
Bro.
certified. And therefore, as a certification body here in Jamaica and the region, we implemented this program to meet the needs of our farmers. It's a widely used and accepted certification program worldwide. I do have some numbers on the screen, the amount of producers worldwide that are using this standard and the amount of countries across the world that are also using this. It's a first choice when retailers and producers across the world are looking to buy goods and produce from farms. Another product that we have, in case you are not yet ready for the Global Gap certification, we do have a program that is called the Certification of Agricultural Produce Program. Now you might be saying, Navinia, what is with you guys and the long names? But don't worry, let's call it the CAP program. That's easier, right? The CAP program. So the CAP program is our response to our farmers to say to you, here is the support that we're going to give you. This support, consider it a stepping stone. The program starts all the way from basic level to mastery. So no farmer should be able to say, oh, I can't meet the requirement of this program. You hear what I said? It starts all the way from basic level to mastery. Basic level meaning that we're asking you, you can just have a hardcover book. Miss Brown spoke about the challenge with record keeping with our farmers. Get a hardcover book. Get a hardcover book. Make your notes. When did you sow? When did you harvest? When did you treat? What is your expected extension time that you need before you can start harvesting after you've treated this goods? Have your persons been trained? Right? The persons, have you given them the proper equipment that they need to use to be able to spray? Right? So basic information, you get a hardcover book and you write them down. Simple as that. It is designed for us as the solution to help our farmers because we don't want no farmer to be left behind. At the end of the day, none of our farmers should be able to say that they're unable to get certification because this is a product that is here for you. And here's a hint that I'm going to give to you. It's very affordable. It is very affordable and it's a solution that we have for our farmers. So we will come to your farm and we would not be using the Global Gap standard. In this instance, we would use standards such as the Good Agricultural Practice standard that Ms. Brown just spoke of. Or we will use the standard for that is here in Jamaica for the open field production. Right? So those are the standards that we would use for your farm. This program is designed and is here for you as a solution. How can you get your goods certified? How can you gain greater market access? Do you want to enter into supermarket chains to get your produce, those lovely tomatoes and cucumbers and lettuce and so on the market? Why not come under this program to get certified, and through that certification, using the certificate that you will get, you can show these supermarket chains that you are certified and you have met good agricultural practices. And I've taken this picture from the FAO guideline book. This program also will help you because agro-processors, the factories and so on, as they buy goods to put into their canned goods that they're producing, or the juices or the jams and jellies that they're producing, if they are looking to export, the countries that they're exporting to are asking them, where are your supplies coming from? What food safety control mechanism is there for your suppliers? Farmers, guess who they're talking about? You, the farmers. So if it is that you are certified under any of these programs, you can have as your evidence the certificate that you would get from us, a certificate of conformity, and you can show, you can give it to the agro-processors. And again, this is where you can gain market because you're able to sell to them. Separate yourself from the other farmers by being certified. As I said in the start of my presentation, we are talking about using standard and certification to gain market access. But we're not done. We're not done. What's the next solution that we're offering to our farmers? So Global Gap and Certification of Agricultural Produce Program is often linked with conventional farming. We know nowadays that persons are saying that your food should be your medicine. Let us eat for health. Let us eat as close to nature as possible. And therefore, we responded to that market request by having the organic certification. Now, organic certification is where you're using the organic principles, the principle of health, the principle of ecology, principle of fairness, and the principle of care. And this is where you are using natural remedy and processes. So sometimes you go on a farm and you might see the spider and you might, oh, why are there spiders? You might see the lizard. Why are there lizards? The reality is that these are there to eat the pests that would come on the farm. So it is about not using man-made chemicals, so to speak. It's about how do you treat the environment in terms of protection. Not to say the other programs don't consider it, but again, organic certification is about using the principles of the organic principles. And therefore, this is a third solution that we have for our farmers. The scope of the organic certification is applicable to crop production, wild harvest, livestock production, beekeeping, processing, and handling. And we do have other scopes. I just thought, just to make it short and spicy, these are the 5 that I'm presenting to you today, but we do have others. Once it is that you're Global Gap certified, you also get this beautiful mark that you can use. And for the CAP program, the mark that was on the slide, you also get that mark that you can use to showcase the fact that you're certified. Again, how do you brand? How do you brand your farming business? How do you brand your produce so that you can separate yourself from the others? Why are we talking again about certification? Just to reinforce what we said. It's about the benefits of improvement in efficiencies, improvement in quality, and reduction in cost. There's sometimes we don't realize or we don't track, but there is a cost when we have to throw away things. When things fail, when you have a failure in your system, there is a cost to it. With the use of standardizing your process and getting certification, the benefit through this is that you see an improvement in your efficiency. The quality of these produce that you're putting on the market increases, and therefore you can command premium price for them. The cost, your operating costs will also be reduced. So your bottom line look healthier. And therefore, those are 3 benefits right away that we can say to you comes with using a standard and to be certified. Certification that we offer, it's third-party certification, meaning that We are not a part of your business. We're not one-on-one with you. We're not shareholders or stakeholder. We have an independent view of your business. And therefore, we come into your business. And through this third-party certification, there is a reduction to technical barriers to trade. There are often times when we are trading and we're going into another market, they might say to you that you cannot come into my market because you have not met these requirements. Certification is a blanket statement because all of us use the standard, and through certification, you're able to access market. Not only that, but there is an increase in confidence because we have confidence in the production that you are doing, meaning that we know based on this third-party independent view that somebody came into your system, they used the standard, and they would have conducted an evaluation through an audit to make sure that you're meeting these requirements. And therefore, when you are selling to the market, there is an increase in confidence. Consistency increases and improved. So if it is that you produce today, you get the same quality tomorrow. There's consistency. And of course, there's a reduction. By extension, there's a reduction in redundancy and breakdown. And what you think is going to happen after that? Customer satisfaction is going to be increased. And you want your customers not only to be satisfied, but you want them to become brand ambassador. They're going to come to this farming entity to buy from you each time because they know the consistency of product and services that they're going to get in. Before going any further, the question on the slide is third-party certification 100% risk-free? No, it's not. It's not. However, what it does, it reduces the probability of the risk happening. It's a risk mitigation tool that is used to strengthen your system. So if it is that you use this standard and you use any of the solution that the 3 solutions that I would have presented, your likelihood of a food safety risk is reduced. And therefore, you are in good standing in that sense. What's the certification process? The certification process is that you get the standard. You get a copy of the standard. I heard the moderator speak about the price of the standard. And any of these standards that I mentioned just now, the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, you can access it through their library and also their online portal. The Global Gap standard is one that you can download off the internet. Afterwards, there's a farm assessment that is conducted, right? You get the standard, you do your farm assessment. Then you set up an appointment with the National Certification Body of Jamaica for us to come in. We will send an auditor to conduct the audit. Once it is that you have met all the requirements of the standard, you will receive your Global Gap certificate, or you will receive your organic certificate, or you'll receive your CAP certificate to show that you are compliant. What's the next step for you? I provide you a lot of information. So what is the next step for you? The next step is for you to understand and prepare. Get a copy of the standard, read it, understand the content of it, and not only that, share it with your workers so that they too can understand what is your expectation of them and what is the expectation of the standard and the certification. Contact the NCBJ. We are here for you, and therefore will give you a certification solution that is tailored to your need. Do a self check now. Check yourself. Always check yourself before somebody else check you, right? So you get the standard. It's not a secret. You know what the standard says. Go through your organization. Go through your farm. When I say organization, I mean your farm. Remember, I said to you that I'm treating your farming business as a business, right? So you take the standard and you go through your operations and make sure that you're meeting the requirements. After you have done that, it's time for you to get certified. You contact us, we'll schedule your certification audit. Dependent on the program that you're in, you might have a two-stage process, right? But what I can say to you, the amount of time that we will take to conduct your audit, dependent on the size of your organization and the complexity. Make sure that you have the right people ready for the audit. So the workers that are carrying out the work, they're the ones that should be there for the audit. No matter get your shareholders and your investors that they invest in the business, but they have never spent a day on the farm. They don't know how to answer the questions coming about how, you know, how your composting is. Have you aged your compost? Have you turned it over? What temperature your compost pile have gotten and all of that? They don't know those questions and answer. So get the person who is there. Right? If it is you need to do your soil check, and those persons who do your soil check, get them on the farm at the day when you're doing the audit. We will come and audit you according to the requirement of the standard, and we'll get you certified. How long can this process take? 3 to 6 months. The speed at which we get you certified is dependent on you. If you're a 3-month person, we get you certified then. If you're a 6-month person, we get you certified then. Right? We will get you certified in 3 to 6 months. As long as you meet the requirements of the standard, you will receive your certificate of conformity. Okay, how long does this certification last? The certification dependent on the program, but the program can last for a year or 2 years. We come in and we do a self-check every year, and then you get recertified. So it's the certification for the organic, for example, the organic and the CAP program will last for 2 years. For the global gap, it lasts for 1 year. And we come in and we re-audit you to make sure that you're meeting the requirement. Wrapping up, I've shared a lot with you, and I want to make sure that I'm keeping within my time and that I keep you on point. So what is it that we are selling? We are selling a solution to you for you to gain market access. How do we do this? Through 3 main programs that we have to support the agriculture industry: Global Gap, Organic, and Good Agriculture, and the certification of agricultural produce. Those are the 3 programs that we offer. Using a standard, implementing it on your farm, such as the Good Agricultural Practice Standard that is being launched today, it gives robustness to your farming operation. It improves efficiencies on your farm, increase the quality, and it reduces costs. And you're going to have increased customer satisfaction and market access. Third-party certification that is offered by the National Certification Body of Jamaica. It is independent, it is impartial, and it has a market acceptability. Do you want this for your farm? If you've answered yes, then the NCBJ is ready to serve you, because we do know that certification is a tool that demonstrates to your customers and stakeholders the strength of your organization and that you're serious about managing food safety and quality. Thank you very much. This is our contact details. I'll put it also in the chat, and I will take any questions that you might have. Let me go ahead and stop sharing. Are there any questions?
Thanks, Navina. We are open to questions now. Questions. I see Sharika is giving you a clap. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Excellent presentation. Indeed, indeed. Any questions for Navina of the National Certification Body of Jamaica? Is this only for exporters?
No, 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 and that's something I thought I had identified, no, it's not only for exporters, it's for every farmer. Once it is that once it is that you want to sell on any market, your local market, whether you're here in Jamaica or across the Caribbean, we will offer you the certification. Use the standard, get certified here in your own country or exporting. So it's not only for the export market. Remember, as I said, if you want to get into supermarkets, you want to get into more supermarkets, get certified. Use certification to gain market access. Market access not only to overseas markets, but in your own country.
Okay, I see another question. Where can we purchase the standard? You can purchase them through our Technical Information Center. The tic@bsj.org.gm is in the chat. I see.
Thank you for that, Richard.
A hand up, Joseph. Could you go ahead and ask your question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawrence. I must commend both presenters thus far, Ms. Brown, as well as Mrs. Wellington Ford, and the
Hi, Mr. Small.
and the overall direction that the Bureau is taking. My question regarding these programs, though, is how many farming groups, whether it's JAS, Trurada, other organizations like the United Agriculturists and Farmers Association of Jamaica and so on, are contacted and are participating in this type of program?
Thank you very much for the question. Thank you for the question. So what we are doing right now, when we were looking at Global Gap as the solution, even with the organic certification as a solution, we would have been having discussions. We had the Jamaica Agriculture Society and by extension, the Ministry of Agriculture in the conversation. We have also been in a dialogue with the Agro Investment Corporation, as you know, is the marketing and promotion arm of the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and Mining. So we have been in a dialogue with these farming groups as we put forward the solution. What we are looking right now is the possibility of working with the agro parks to get them certified. We have also been speaking with the various farming groups across the island. We have been doing with Pig Farmers Association, various Pig Farmers Association, and various associations to get them certified, understand their needs, both in terms of market needs and also what is it that they need on the farm. And that is one of the reasons why we have a mixture of products. We have the Stepping Stone program, which is a CAP program, and we also have others that the larger players can join right off the bat. Let me also clarify that the CAP program, large farmers can also participate. So we do collaborate and get the input of the various association and farmers' voice into the discussion when we are putting forward solutions.
Okay, thank you. Navina, we're going to do a rapid fire response to some of these questions. I see a few in the chat.
Okay, sure. Let me look at them and then I can answer. Okay.
Okay, Wilkins Ada asks about consulting. And
okay.
I can answer for you and say, yes, you can send an email. Navina will definitely have a discussion with you, Wilkins Ada. We're always up for consultation and collaboration, right? Working with you, Navina. Sherika asks, it's an excellent presentation. My question would be, what method would be used to ensure full participation of farmers, both for SMEs and large industries? That sounds like a policy type question.
Okay.
right?
Okay, what I do know, I know, for example, in Jamaica, that the Ministry of Agriculture from the policy level had made the decision to put forward the fact that our farmers ought to get certified, and they have been supporting that. I do know in other countries across the region, their government and their Bureau of Standards, for example, have also been in the discussion about their farmers being certified. So we are working with both groupings, small groupings and large grouping. And we're also using opportunities like this to spread the word about certification and the product, right? The
I see.
cost of certification in terms of the timing, I'm seeing the questions. What I will do, I will stay on the presentation. I'll just mute my mic and my camera, turn on my camera, and I'll answer the questions in the chat in the interest of time, Richard, because I know you have to
Okay.
manage your
Yes.
schedule. So I will
All right.
answer the questions in the chat. So please look for the response to the questions that you're asking.
Okay.
Thank you very much again, Bureau of Standards, for the opportunity. I look forward to continue serving our farmers. Thank
All
you.
right. Awesome. And Navina, what you could also do is to put your contacts in the chat so that persons can get to you directly.
Yes, that's what we're doing. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. That was the National Certification Body of Jamaica, the Bureau of Standard, making standard work for you, whether you're starting with the voluntary standard or you're moving on to certification. Earlier, I spoke about collaboration with educational institutes. We are happy to have with us Dr. Derek Deslandes, who is the president of the College of Agriculture, Science, and Education. He has over 20 years teaching experience both at the University of the West Indies and Florida State University, and he has also worked as a consultant within both the private and public sector. Currently, he sits on the National Council on Education and chairs the Jamaica Dairy Development Board. At CASE, he is pushing to ensure that the students are exposed to international best practice and also supporting the farming industry in the fields of business and science. So we are happy to allow Dr. Deslandes to give brief remarks on how this standard is incorporated in what he is working with at the College of Arts, Science, and Education.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks so much for having me. I must say that I was involved in the agri-park development and the need for Global Gap certification. In fact, the push for the agri-parks to become Global Gap certified came out of a visit to the UK in 2012, and we recognized that if our farmers are going to be able to export and to meet standards, then it was important that we seek to get our farmers certified where possible. It is not possible for every farmer, but certainly if you can arrange and structure your farming activities as we have done with the agri-park, then I think it helps in greatly. It does mean that Jamaican farmers within the agri-parks can export to anywhere in the world, which is important. The point that was made earlier about local standards is very critical. I think being at CASE and being at the ministry and certainly UWI, standards are very, very critical in terms of efficiency, in terms of maintaining quality. You have to know what you're producing. It can't be a hit and miss. We have done that for too long. We need to understand what are if you think about best practices are really standards that you adhere to on a consistent basis to ensure that your outcome is consistent. And so for our students, we have to we have to expose them to this. I tell my staff that whatever we do, whether we're doing chickens or we're doing goats or cows, we have to push to operate at best practice level, at globally competitive levels, right? And also to ensure that the standards are met, whether it's a standard for sanitation, the standard for feed, there has to be a standard, because it also aids in terms of your cost. if I know that I need to feed my goats every morning 1 pound of grain and 1 pound of beer ups, or I need to pay give my students, my goats 10 pounds of hay, we need to standardize, because that also helps you to determine how much you buy, and actually manages your cost in a way that actually benefits and greatly enhances your likelihood of making profit. So it is very, very timely. It is extremely good. We just need to get our farmers on board. Many of our farmers don't actually see this as important. It is very important. It's important for traceability, for example. It's important to understand where your food is coming from and where to identify when there's a breakdown in the system. In many respects, if one follows the international news, you see it all over. You see farmer products being recalled in US supermarkets, and they can trace exactly which farm in the US it is coming from. And they can tell you what caused the breakdown in that system and which worker failed to adhere to a particular standard that led to this activity. It's very, very important. So I'm 100% behind it. It's something that we preach. It's something that we encourage, and it's something that I've been involved in and continue to be involved in. And let us also recognize that and big our banana farmers, because many of our banana farmers have been Global Gas certified for decades. Yeah, and they understand the importance of quality. So when you go to the average banana farmer, whether Portland or St. Mary or St. James, you see that the bananas are grown in a certain way. There's a standard that the farmers are applying, and the banana board enforces it, right? So it can be done on a scale. It can be done even with smaller farmers, right? And so when you buy bananas, you tend to get a consistency in terms of the standard that you're looking for, whether you're ripening the banana or you're buying green. So it is something that we need to encourage. It's something that we need to support, and it's certainly we pledge our support as best as we can in this fight, because we have to ensure that our farmers become internationally competitive. We already have the quality. We just need to ensure that our standards are maintained and that we are able to compete wherever in the world. That's the only way that the agriculture sector is going to survive in this century. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Deslandes. And that last comment about fight is very important. We are fighting using standards. So the standards that we are implementing and the certification processes, fighting against ignorance and fighting against the competition that is had because we lack the standardization processes. I saw in the chat that we have a number of colleagues and friends from the region and around the world. I saw colleagues, thanks for coming on, from the UK, Haiti, Guyana, Dominica, St. Kitts. Yes, so St. Kitts and CrossQ. CrossQ is a CARICOM regional organization for standards and quality. Trinidad and Tobago in the house. Oh my God. This is definitely a regional and international forum. And I want you to know that the services being offered here are not only for Jamaica. So Navina was speaking about certification. We not only certify companies and organizations in Jamaica. So what you hear here is available wherever you are. We will come and help you. The Bureau of Standards Jamaica is an entity whose tagline is making standards work for you. And we do not discriminate. So thanks for our colleagues from across the region and the world for joining and supporting us as we launch this quality standard. We have spoken about the standard. We have spoken about certification. We want to look on another program within the National Quality Infrastructure, the National Quality Awards. The National Quality Awards is a program that has been implemented for many years, and we are going to invite Mrs. Cecilia Johnson-Rowe, who is a Senior Standards Development Officer here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. She has been with the Bureau for over 7 years, working in the fields of standards development. She facilitates technical committees across various industries, such as petroleum, tourism, cannabis, telemedicine, and currently emerging. I have to ask her, this industry, I've never heard of it before. Psilocybin industry. I'm sure she'll talk about another time. Recently, Mrs. Johnson-Rowe assumed the role of program coordinator for the National Quality Awards program. She's a graduate of the University of the West Indies, Mona, where she did her bachelor's in applied science, and she also has a master's in business administration in international business with a distinction from the Mona School of Business and Management. She has keen interest in international trade relations and is passionate about family, enjoys traveling, experiencing new culture, architecture, and food. I invite now Cecilia to speak to us about this very important program, the National Quality Awards.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Thank you to my colleagues who went before. I want to say welcome to everyone again. Thank you for being here. I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask a very important question, and I'll be looking on the participants list for your responses. Can I just see the raise of hands for all our farmers that are present in this launch today, because you are indeed our target audience? Can I just see a raise of hands? Great. So I'm checking. I'm seeing about 3 hands so far. 4. Great. All righty. So thank you so much for sharing. You can lower your hands. At this time, as I go through my presentation, I'm going to close my camera as we speak about the National Quality Awards program. So once you have implemented your good agricultural practices, and I know some of our farmers now are looking to get certified, we want to encourage you to participate in the National Quality Awards program. So what is the National Quality Awards program? Just let me know that you're seeing my screen. So the National Quality Awards program is a quality-based systems awards program, and what it seeks to do is to recognize and reward local businesses that have implemented quality systems and standards in both the production of goods and the delivery of services. And so the program is open to businesses operating in the manufacturing, in the service sector, small business sector, and as we're here today, the agriculture sector. So we're seeking to target our farmers operating large and small farms. This is a program that is run by the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, and it is at no cost to our applicants. It is a free program to participate in, and what it seeks to do is to recognize your business excellence, how you have used standards, as my colleagues would have spoken to, using standards to ensure quality. You are ensuring efficiency in your business and also reduction of waste and reduction of production cost and time as well. Those are some of the valued benefits of the using standards in your operations. And so the BSJ through this program offers, a wide range of opportunities for businesses who are operating at business excellence, to be recognized for same through the National Quality Awards program. So how do you apply? We are now open for application. The application period opened on the 2nd of January and will close on the 31st of March, and you are able to download our application form from the BSJ's website. What does the winner of the NQA, what will you get in return? So for our winners, for the different sectors, you will receive a prestigious award trophy. You will seek to acquire industry recognition because now the Bureau of Standards Jamaica is stating that this company is operating at business excellence and is offering quality and value for money. And also you will, benefit from promotion by the BSJ. Additionally, even if you're not an overall winner, what you will get is all qualified participants would receive a detailed value-adding audit report that comes out of the NQA assessment, and also you receive a certificate of participation. Now, what happens when you apply? Once you would have been in receipt of the NQA application form and you'd have completed same, the NQA coordinator in receipt of said application will review your application for eligibility. Once you have been deemed eligible to enter the program, we will share with you what we call a self-assessment checklist. And earlier we spoke about, auditing yourself, your self-audit. You would now say to us, this is what I have in place. I have documentations, I have procedures, and so on. Once that is completed, we will dialogue with the company to determine a date for your assessment. And this assessment means that our team of professional management system auditors would visit your site, visit your farm, and conduct an audit. Once the audit is completed, we will generate for you an audit report and findings. Right? And as I said before, the application period ends on the 31st of March. Now, all your documents would be treated with the highest level of confidentiality. So once you've entered the program, we would need to review your documents. We'd need to review your business documents, whether it be your financial documents, whether it be your marketing plans, and so on. We would review these documents to see if it is that you are doing what you said you were doing when you filled out your self-assessment form. Your audit reports at the end of each assessment will be returned to you, and it will not be shared with the public. These audit reports will be used to determine who will be the winner of the NQA program and the different categories. So what are the criteria for entering the program? You must have a valid tax compliance certificate. Your business must be registered with the Companies Office of Jamaica. Where it is applicable, it must be registered with the Bureau of Standards Jamaica or the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority or any other required authority. For our farmers, you must be registered with RADA, and also you must have been filing all your tax returns, GCT payments, and so on. So all statutory requirements must be fulfilled. As I stated before, once you have completed your application, we will require of you to complete the self-assessment form for the agriculture sector. I did state that for agriculture, we have 2 segments, and that's the only category that we award 2 separate awards, overall category for a large farm and for a small farm. Also, you would submit your documents as required, and the assessment of your company would take place. So under the National Quality Awards program, we seek to evaluate and assess companies under 5 main categories. These are, we look at your organizational focus, we look at human resource focus, and very importantly, we look at your process management. And for the agriculture sector, this will largely incorporate your good agricultural practices, whether you've implemented Global GAP, whatever certifications that you would have, and so on, as well as we look at your customer focus and your business results. Now, all of these areas we would look at, it may not be fully, the presentation may not totally be tailored now to agriculture alone because it's the overall program that we're looking at. But as I go along, I seek to highlight for you some of the areas within your industry that would be of importance for you to state when you're filling out your application and also your self-assessment checklist. Right, so under the organizational focus, we will look at your corporate social responsibilities. Do you have a mission? Do you have a vision? Do you have, are you in compliance with the different regulations or statutory requirements? We will look at leadership. How are you committed to quality? We'd also look at your environmental awareness. And I know as farmers and as persons operating in the agriculture industry, environmental awareness is also very important because we know what we do, we have impact on the environment, and also it will also eventually impact your overall business. And so we look how you are being responsible in these areas, looking at waste management and conservation. We take a look at how you manage your human resources. Do you have any systems in place looking at hiring and recruiting? Is it that you have a seasonal recruitment process, or do you take on full-time workers? How you go about doing that? And this is where the process of documentation is very important. We look at how you treat employee development. Have employees benefited from any training programs? There is a new GAP standard now being launched by the Bureau of Standards. Has there been any effort to ensure that your employees have been trained in these requirements? Also, we look at how you treat employee well-being and satisfaction. Are there any procedures in place to, look at the safety of your employees and so on? Are there any incentives and awards for, those employees that go beyond the call of duty? Importantly, we look at your process management. Do you have any quality control systems in place? Are you monitoring? Are you doing your internal audits and external? Are you looking at your process and seeking to improve on it? For instance, you would have gotten any recommendations from possibly your extension officer that is assigned to RADA about implementing to improve your process. We like to see those documentations to see if you have been, making your necessary corrective and preventative actions, whether it's to reduce waste, whether it's to reduce your impact on the environment. What are you doing? And so we encourage you to use the Good Agricultural Practices Standard now to improve on your process, because at the end of the day, it adds value for your company, and also it adds value for Jamaica overall, because I know Ms. Wellington, she spoke about, competing globally. And it's not only when we put our produce on a ship or on a plane and take it to another country that we're competing globally. We are operating in a globalized marketplace. And so you may not have to leave the shores of Jamaica to be competing, because we have imports coming to our country, and you also have to compete with those, right? So we want to see how you've implemented the use of standards, whether it be international or local standards. Do you have a process flow? Do you have a layout of your facility or of your farm? I know Giselle spoke earlier about, having a plan to show how your farm is set up. Do you have signage and so on to direct visitors, or how your employees are supposed to operate during, production and so on? So we spoke a lot about documentation, documenting your procedures. Do you have procedures for pre and post-harvest practices? Do you have procedures for your pest management and pest control? Do you have procedures for handling pest management? How do you treat a pest? So on and so forth. How do you treat your products once you've harvested the product? We want to see where you have those processes in place, and we want to see how well you've implemented your procedures and your standards and your practices. And then at the end of the day, we will seek to assess you based on what you said that you have, and seek to recognize you for the work that you're doing. That is what the National Quality Awards Program is about. Additionally, we look at your customer focus. Do you have any systems in place to, guide customer loyalty and retention? Do you do a basic customer satisfaction survey? Do you have a system for managing complaint? How do you manage complaint from your customers and so on? And also, are you doing any form of market analysis? Are you looking at what the market is saying right now so that you're able to supply the needs and ensure business viability? And finally, also, we seek to look at your business results. Are you being fiscally accountable? Are you filing your annual taxes? You may be considered self-employed, but at the end of the day, you must file your tax returns. So we want to see some of those, being implemented in your business. Are you conducting any market survey? Are you doing cost control analysis? Do you even, take count of your return on investment? So those are some of the areas that we focus on when you apply to the National Quality Awards Program. We spoke about the NQA application form earlier, and this is just a pictorial representation of the form, which you are able to download online. If you have any challenges with filling out the application form, you can always seek to request assistance from the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, specifically myself or Mrs. Mikara Vassareno, who is here, and she's able to provide our contact details in the chat if you need any assistance, additional information about how to apply to the program, then you are able to contact us. As I said before, once you have completed your application and we check the application for eligibility, once you're deemed eligible, we will respond to you, sending you a self-assessment checklist. And what the self-assessment checklist does, it gives us a little bit more detail about your business or about your farm and about your operations. And what it does, it seeks to give us insight into the kind of system that you have in place currently or you're working towards. Because what we ask as well on the self-assessment form is for those areas that you have no system or documentation or a procedure for, by the time we get to you for your assessment, would you have a semblance of a system in place? So those are some of the things that we will ask you. Additionally, we give some instructions about how to complete the self-assessment form, because the self-assessment form will seek to highlight to us now those systems that you have in place. In this case, we have, for instance, under the focus area for organizational focus, under 1.1.3, we asked about your active involvement in support of your community. And then we ask you, do you have a system in place? You may say yes to us. If you do, is it documented? Do you have a written document? It may be that you do not have a written document, but you've implemented it, right? We want to know what it is that you have. Implementing means that you would have possibly had a sports day or a back to school grant, a back to school fair. Possibly you are able to show us photos of that whole function. You may not have a policy documented that every 2 years we'll have a back to school fair, or you know, if we've made so much money, we'll have a back to school fair, but you have been actively involved in that process. And so you can show to us, you can demonstrate, you can show evidence that you've implemented a system, even though you may not have it documented. I think one of the challenges that we do have and that we've experienced when members of the agriculture industry enters the National Quality Awards program is that we're told that on the self-assessment, we're told that you have documented, or yes, you have a policy, but when we come, you do not have something documented. Sometimes too, we ask for, you know, persons who are interacting with the auditors to be explicit about what it is that you do. Because sometimes, as I said before, you may not have your procedures or policies documented, but yes, you have something implemented and you have been doing it consistently. And so we encourage you as well, as you enter the program, to be explicit about what it is that you do, what it is that you have implemented, what it is that you have documented, and what it is that you have present, but it is not documented. And that is what you will use your self-assessment checklist to do, right? And we spoke to that already. So I'm looking forward to our farmers present, asking more about the National Quality Awards program, and also filling out your applications and sending them to us at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. You are able to contact myself, Cecilia Johnson Rowe, at bsj.org.jm. So that's cro@bsj.org.jm. And you are able to call me for a conversation at 303-0821. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. Do you have any questions, or anybody would like to ask questions at this time? You can go ahead and raise your hand or type it in the chat. I have a question for you. You might just win a prize. Based on Cecilia's presentation just now, she gave several benefits of participating in the National Quality Awards program. And one of them is that it is FREE, but I'd like someone to type in the chat two other benefits that Cecilia spoke of participating in the National Quality Awards. Two other benefits. All right. Put in two other benefits. I see Kadeen Autobad. Let me see some more responses, please. Kadeen has some very fast fingers, you know. Promotion from the BSJ, yes, people are gonna know about you. Trophy, sure, you can put it up in your customer service area. Industry recognition, everybody, your friends are gonna know, yes. Recognition and trophy, yes, Shola, absolutely, awesome. Certified, well, this is not a certification program, no. Free audit report, yay. I should have said, if you're a bureau employee, you cannot participate. National development, well, personal development for your business, industry recognition, yes. Full system audit, wonderful, wonderful. I hope my team are recognizing who went first. I think Kadeen was the first person to go. Right. So congratulations again to Kadeen. There are many, many benefits go ahead and apply. The deadline is the 31st of March. We're in March now, so do it right now. We have those contacts. Next on our program, we'll be having a presentation on the way forward. What's going to happen next? Now that we found love, what are we going to do with it? Now that we have had this launch and we've had all of this information, what happened next? Julia Bonadue is the director of the Standards Division right here at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. She's also the chair of the ISO DEFCO committee. That is a committee that supports developing countries. There are over 200 members from 7 regions around the world that are a part of DEFCO that's represented. And we are proud that a Jamaican has the chair for this committee. She has been in standards development for more than 2 decades. Julia, I'm not going to talk about the age. Let's say more than 2 decades. Let's keep it general. And she has even received a national honor last year for her contribution to standards development in Jamaica. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Julia Bonadue, who's going to speak to us about the way forward. Over to you, Julia.
Thank you, Richard. It's nice to have you as a fellow member, fellow colleague. Sorry, it sounds good. So I can say I've been very impressed by this set of presentations. I am happy that we are at this point where we're looking at good agricultural practices. It has been said already that agriculture is the mainstay of Jamaican economy, and of most economies. Richard mentioned DEFCO, most economies across the world, especially those that's between the Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. We are exposed to the same geographical issues, the same climate issues, and we, based on our soil and our position geographically, we are the food basket of the world. So, interestingly, the world, because of technology and AI and COVID and the wars Dr. Wood spoke about, those geopolitical tensions are causing a big strain on food. So this good agricultural practices standard is critical for us to embrace it as a country, to pull ourselves into that space where we can fill the gap. Artificial food is everywhere. Cultivated meats, artificial food. So if we can have our farmers practice good agricultural practices as represented by Giselle, what we do is that we'll help to create, as Nabina said, sustainability and continuity. We can ensure that the produce is good. If we speak to most of our importers, we are importing a lot of raw material for a lot of the food we eat. So, for example, orange concentrate for juices, oats and other things. We have a lot of imports. So the way forward is that one, we encourage our farmers to practice this. It is not easy, but we also have, talk about National Quality Awards Program, where you get a free audit to assess your farm. So if I was a farmer, even not win, I'm going to enter, you're getting a free assessment. 2, you can, if you are so assessed and you need help, we have what we call the client service program, which will guide you as to interpret the requirements of the Good Agricultural Practice Standard. So we want to encourage that. And 3, if you are so assessed to be good, you can even go and get certified by NCBJ to be certified to enter into a market. But we need a groundswell. We need the entire farming community to understand and move that space. So, well, Richard mentioned Case and Dr. Deslandes, where I thought he came on eventually, but we are aggressively looking at ensuring that the good agricultural practices being part of the curricula of areas. So that is a discussion we are seeking to have. I have inquired, and there are aspects of it, but we want to ensure that it's embedded. Also, we, as I think somebody spoke about our relationship, we had a situation a few years ago. We trained the RADA extension officers to understand good agricultural practices. That was a success, and it was a success because I can tell you that our training offering for good agricultural practice was cannibalized. So we no longer offer that training because agriculture don't need it anymore. However, while extension officers are cognizant of the standard, we want to ensure that the farmers are. So we continue having to ride the other bicycle pedal, which said, the wheel, which says that we have to encourage use. And as we encourage use, we have to get assessment. So that's why the NQA is important. That is why the certification is important. And we talk about getting into the curriculum. Another very important stuff, one of the reasons why most farmers don't progress to the NQA is the data. They don't have records enough to show that they are actually doing something. Now, the NQA doesn't assess you on a contemporary. All the contemporary quality standard systems are important. So if you have your own system, or you have HACCP, or you have Global Gap, or you have whatever you have as a farmer or processor, then we will assess that. So there's something called smart farming. And at international level, I'm a part of a smart farming coordination committee. And that committee is seeking to ensure that farmers are recognized and encouraged to use technology in their farming process. Climate change is a big issue for us. And it's, in fact, climate agenda is now the investment agenda. If you are doing any kind of business now and you're not considering climate, then you are not being realistic. We know we haven't had storms and hurricanes in the last few years. Not bored, we don't want to have any. But I know that every time a storm or hurricane passes, the food system becomes of a concern. So we want to ensure that in good agricultural practice, there are methods, because if you keep data to show that what's the effect of a climate issue on your agricultural processes, then you can aggregate that data, get it analyzed by yourself or others, and make decisions for the future. Let me tell you a simple one. When storms hit our country and hurricanes, our bananas are greatly affected. I know at the very simple level, I had a banana farm, and I was told to cut the leaves of the banana, trim them like you trim in your beard, and they would not be destroyed by the hurricane. And it actually worked. So I'm saying there are best practices that have been used by culturally or by communities or by farmers. We're going to be encouraging the associations to document these best practices. We want to be collaborating with academia to create evidence-based best practices, which can now be transferred to the farmers. So we have to get very organized about what we do, and we have to don't underestimate ourselves. So smart farming and data collection. So what we want to ensure is that along that value chain for the agro-processing, agribusiness, at every area, we are collecting data to support what we need to do to make decisions in the future. Women are an important part of agriculture. In fact, women are critical in some countries because the woman is usually the person who feeds the family. And so therefore, we need to also look at how to look at genders and how to support a structure around women. So what we're talking about here is next steps. We want to encourage the associations, the JAPA, every project I'm a part of, talk about gender. And every time you try to engage the women, they have limited availability. They have to go to school with the children, they have to go to work, they have to come and feed the children, but they have to farm. So what are the systems around supporting good agricultural practices? And so we want to say the architecture and the framework, we as the Bureau of Standards, we as the associations here on this platform and anybody else, we as the JMA, the JAPA, and the JIS, the AICs, we need to start looking closely at how do we coalesce, work together to support the agricultural industry. If we don't, we'll be eating cultivated meat very soon. And therefore, I want to just encourage us, and the next steps, I know the Bureau is we're aggressively moving towards that space, ensuring that we coordinate, collaborate, and partner to get our farmers. And I know they're hard to deal with, and those on here would know, but we have no choice. And therefore, it's like when you have a child in school who's a bad child, you say, the boy is ignore, we can't ignore the farmers. So I'm encouraging the farmers here, where I'm encouraging the academias, the researchers to support our system. We look forward to what I would call an innovation management system in the future, where we'll bring all the stakeholders in this ecosystem together, and we'll look at how do we move. When we have an issue, how do we work with the academia, the researchers, the policymakers in the government, the ministers of government, the Bureau of Standards, the consumers, the regulators, and the associate. How do we get us to work together to make decisions and then put that back down to the farmers and the members of our agri-food system? So I welcome you here again, and we have your name and contact. We will continue to try and speak with you, collaborate with you to ensure that as we move forward, we are having impact. We cannot have the impact individually or insularly. We'll have the impact when we work together. So thank you very much. And you'll be hearing from the Bureau of Standards. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia. You'll definitely be hearing from the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. We've got Jamaica because we have our colleagues across CARICOM who are here supporting this launch. This has been a very good engagement. We know that the conversation doesn't end here. There are many things that we can do to collaborate, to work together, to develop the industry, not only in Jamaica. And I've seen questions in the chat asking about the support that can happen outside of Jamaica. Yes, we can. So those persons and entities outside of Jamaica, you need to get in touch with us. We are here to support you. The tagline of the Bureau of Standards Jamaica is making standards work for you. And that's what we're here to do. We appreciate all the persons who contributed today. We are not finished with our work. We continue to work behind the scenes. There are several email contacts that you would have seen in the chat. If you can't remember all of them, just remember this one, info@bsj.org.jm. So whatever you need, you can just send it to that email, whether it is the standard you need copies of, you need to be certified Global GAP or the CAP program, which is a stepping stone. If you need to be in the National Quality Awards program, whatever it is, probably you want to set up a National Quality Award in your country and you're not in Jamaica, info@bsj.org.jm. The official thank you will be done by my colleague in the Standards Development Department, April Farrell, the Standards Development Officer, one of those workhorses. We have many in the department, in the Bureau. That is a powerhouse. We invite April now to give the vote of thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to open. Can you all see me? Oh, great. All right, so good morning, or should I say happy lunchtime to everyone. It's 12:07. Just would like to give the vote of thanks for this virtual launch of the Good Agricultural Practices Standard. It was very, very, very insightful and a lot. So I would start off with the Master of Ceremonies, one of our major pillars at the Bureau of Standards Jamaica, Mr. Richard Lawrence. We really do appreciate the time that you took to really walk us through the entire program and for the little nuggets in between to get us excited and to have us be able to enjoy everything that were to come. Also, welcoming remarks from Dr. Belton Gooden, our Executive Director at the BSJ. We just want to say thank you for sharing, and our great presenters, my colleague Giselle Brown from the Standards Development Branch, who really took a lot to provide us with the information as it relates to the JCP standard for the good agricultural practices. Our neighboring body from the NCBJ, Ms. Navina Wellington Ford. Thank you so very much for providing that presentation. I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of emails from persons, especially from CrossQ, from Jamaica. So that would be really good. And then we also had a short brief talk from Dr. Derek Galandes. Hopefully I pronounce your name correct. The president of CASE. We do appreciate you also giving your input and also being a part of the development for the JCP, which was the standard that we launched today. And then we also had another colleague of mine, Senior Standard Development Officer, Ms. Cecilia Johnson-Rowe, who also is the coordinator for the National Quality Awards Program. We really do appreciate the information that you would have provided, and we really do look forward to the participants also blowing up their emails with more inquiring on more information regarding the program. And none other than our director and ISO DEFCO chair, Ms. Julia Bonadoué, on her giving her input on the way forward. Very insightful. So overall, we just want to thank all persons who would have been participating on the program. And we also would really like to thank all of the participants, the 75 participants and more, who really took the time to come out and be a part of this wonderful launch and discussion. Thank you all so very much and have a great launch. Over to you, Mr. Lawrence.
Well, thank you to April. What's left for me to say, have a great rest of your day. Keep in touch. We have a whole lot more to do, and there are other sessions in the future. We'll be launching other areas of support for the different industries. Come on, let us work together and make standards work for you. Have a good day.